Hi, I'm Yakov Horowitz, and this is the first in a series of three of videos on the Netflix series One of Us, which depicts tells the stories of three people who were initially observant Jews and abandoned religion. It's such an important topic, and I really believe that it would be important to have these discussions about what this piece is about, what it represents, how we should be interacting with people of our community who abandon religious practice. And I thought it would be a good idea to take small clips from this documentary, put them up on social media, Facebook and the others, and take it apart a little bit at a time and really talk about what you saw there, what some of the backstory is, and I think very importantly what the takeaway messages should be. First of all, to begin with, I agree totally with Rabbi Yitzchak Adlerstein, my good friend who wrote a piece in Cross Currents about this documentary. And it certainly is not a hatchet job. It was very, very painful to watch, searing. I wanted to watch it for 10 minutes last night and put the rest for later. I just couldn't turn it off. But it showed the Frum community and the people in the Frum community in a fair light, happy families, thoughtful people, by and large. So I think we should look at it in that light as well. There are many topics, child abuse prevention and what role that plays, dealing with square pegs, what to do when we have, in our very close-knit society, you have children, young adults who clearly don't do rules well and do their own thing and are creative, free spirits. The custody battles, the whole issue over what happens when either parent who becomes non-observant, father or mother, gets involved in these horrible custody battles, what effect it has on the children, what effect it has on the parents and the extended family. So we will be talking about this later in subsequent future videos, but tonight we're just going to talk about the Shabbos meal. They were clearly enjoying it. Again, the clip is on my Facebook page if you want to have a look. You could see clearly that the adults in the room, some of them were tentative a bit, and you saw the singing. One of them yells out, "This is amazing, join it." And you clearly see the emotion and the connection in some way. And I think the people who don't have interactions with folks in this community, in the community of people who abandon religion, might be surprised. Well, they're not keeping Shabbos. Like, what's the Shabbos meal all about? They might be smoking while they're having a Shabbos meal. So what's that all about? In fact, I got an email from someone who's very active in this space. And he sent me a clip of, not this one, but it was like a picnic type Shabbos meal, and with a note saying, "Boy, how disrespectful they are. They're mocking Shabbos." And I told him, I said, "What are you talking about?" I called him up. He's a good friend. And I said, "Well, why do you think they're disrespecting? They're sincere. This is meaningful to them. They're not willing to take the whole package. They may have issues with God. They may have other stuff going on. But what does that have to do with it?" So I told him. He was quiet. I saw he didn't really didn't get it, or he didn't buy in yet. So I told him, I said, what did you think about the Siyum HaShas? The Siyum HaShas, the most recent one. It's a 7.5-year cycle of learning the Talmud, 1 page a day. And it's celebrated in last cycle was the Siyum means a completion, was celebrated in MetLife Stadium, where the New York Giants and Jets play football. 90,000 people in the stadium. It was really quite an event and something, I strongly encourage people to participate in. So I asked this fellow who was complaining about these guys and saying that they're being disrespectful. I said, "Hey, Did you go to the Sima Shas? He said, yes. I said, it was 3.5, 4 hours. How do you like the speeches? I said, did you stay for all the speeches or did you walk out or check your messages? I said, tell me, what were the best parts? The actual siyum is 10, 15 minutes of singing that is remarkable. It's just beautiful. And davening Ma'ariv, the prayer, the evening prayer service together. I said, you like that. You didn't like the rest of the stuff. But you came for 4 hours because of the 35, 40 minutes that you liked. I said, how would you feel if somebody stood at the door, instead of taking tickets, they would test you on Talmud and say, hey, you can't come in. You don't know all of Talmud. What are you doing here? It's a party for people who finished. Get out. You don't belong here. Or how about if somebody, took away if there was an usher walking around, yanking away tickets and escorting people out who were not listening to the speeches. So you want to participate in what you want to participate in. That's what they're doing. And there is no they, obviously. There are, every person is a different story and a different life experience. But by and large, I would certainly say, having dealt with hundreds, probably thousands over the past 20 years, thousands of people, again, young adults, teenagers, adults who abandon religious practice, I would say that without a doubt in my mind that many or most like to participate in these events. And my message here tonight is that we should permit them to do so. In fact, we should encourage them to do so. And I would tell you more than that. These folks were there enjoying each other's company because they were able to participate without anybody judging them, without anybody commenting on their appearance or what they're wearing or what their level of religious practice is. Rabbi Elio Turk, I just spoke to him on the phone in preparation for this talk. He runs the Jewish Heritage Center, and although it was initially an outreach movement, they've been doing a lot of great work with kids, primarily from Hasidic homes who are abandoning religion, who have abandoned religion. And they have a Shavuos retreat, which I've had the pleasure of participating in, over the past 5-6 years. And he mentioned to me when he saw the post today, he contacted me and said, one of the biggest surprises they had is how much the kids loved to sing and sit at the table and eat cholent, which is Jewish soul food, and have that level of camaraderie. And my wife and I have been volunteering at an organization called Madregos, which is a beautiful organization that supports young men and women and adults, people my age, who are in recovery for various addictions. And the singing there, especially at the closing meal, is just, I'm going to get choked up. It's amazing. And again, the vast majority of the children are no longer religious. So that's one piece. Watch it again. Think about people who are in your neighborhood who are no longer observant. People in your family, friends of friends. What it would mean for them to you to call them up and say, could you come by for a Shabbos meal? My wife and I had a few of these over the years where kids, young adults came who were no longer observant. No questions asked. Just show up at the door. The kids were respectful. They parked their car 3 blocks away and walked. I didn't tell them what to do. And I know there are halachic questions, and some different rabbis will tell you different things. And you certainly should follow the advice that you get from a rabbi. But, that's the first message about this Shabbos. Watch it again. Think of people that you know that are no longer observant, that would benefit, that would really appreciate it, and reach out to them. And a corollary of that, and another component of all this, is the social isolation. Especially in the Hasidic community, where families typically live much closer to each other physically, in closer proximity, and then extended families are larger. When someone makes that decision to abandon religious practice, in the vast majority of cases, they do so knowing that it will strain relationships with their family members. They don't want that, unless, God forbid, there's something in the home that they're running away from. But by and large, they don't want that social isolation. I had a fascinating story. A number of years ago, I got a call from one of the very well-known activists in the formerly religious community. He called me up one morning. We were very close. I helped him with his, tried to help him with his custody situation with his children, and we just became close. We communicated often. He called me one morning. He says, "Hey, Rabbi, I'm sitting on my stoop." It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. People were heading off to work. So he was in the Village or Soho. He was in Manhattan in a neighborhood. And he said, he was in an apartment. And he said, "I'm sitting on the stoop of the place where I live. And the folks inside are just buildings emptying out as people go off to work. And I'm telling everybody, 'Good morning, how are you? Good morning.'" And he said, nobody stopped. Nobody said anything. They either looked at me or just walked on or just said, "Hey, fine, man, see ya." He said, "Why can't one of them sit down and say, 'Hey,' his first name, 'Was herzach,' which in Yiddish means, 'What's up? What's happening?'" And he didn't express it like that, but he missed this social interaction of a close community. And you talk to people who are in that situation, and they make their decisions. Many of them feel they cannot stay. In the community, many of them feel that they need the space. Whatever it is, they shouldn't have to suffer social isolation. And this is not the topic of tonight's talk. I will talk about it later. But let's be honest, there have been many high-profile suicides of people who were formerly observant. And I certainly am not a therapist. I'm not, but the social isolation, it cannot be that did not have some part in that. And we, observant Jews, really need to do some soul searching about this issue, about the social isolation. And that's the second part of that video, that the groups get together because they have that network. And when you look at them, you see them enjoying each other. And I really believe that they would feel the same in our homes, in our communities, if we would just provide them with that type of space where they come and go as they wish, where they're not asked questions about how they're doing or where they're doing. And you listen to Lazatursky, one of the three people who was interviewed, as they didn't show his face then, but as they were cutting out of this section, that 2.5-minute section that I posted, he said, "I do miss it, and I'll probably miss it for the rest of my life." And in my opinion, there's no reason that void should stay unfilled. One of the most heartbreaking pieces of this video that I posted, and many of you may not have noticed it, was the selection of their song. Go back and listen to it. It was a verse in Tillim and Psalms. Kaylee, Kaylee, lama azhavtani. God, why did you forsake me? It's a beautiful song, beautiful words. Kaylee, Kaylee, lama azhavtani. I found it fascinating that was the song that they were singing. They may have been singing other songs. They may sing other songs at a different time. The video, the photographers may have just shot the film at that moment. But it was really striking. Kaylee, Kaylee, lama azhavtani. Many of the folks, especially those who have been subjected to horrible trauma, 100% feel abandoned by God. That God wasn't there to protect them when stuff in their life was happening to them, when they were abused or other things like that. And if and because they feel a complicated relationship with God, and we get that at Madrigos. I did quite a number of workshops with the young men and women about talking about their relationship with God. 12 steps requires you to communicate with a higher power. Many of them are uncomfortable with that because they're upset with God, or especially Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, are times when we are supposed to be connecting to God. So, being that many of them feel that way, there is no reason in this world that they should feel isolated by us. They're saying, Yanki, Yitzi, Rivki, why'd you leave me? Why did you abandon me? I'm no longer observant. I should have a seat at the table. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to your participation. Feel free to comment on the Facebook post. I will try to respond to some, and